I'm Bill Dahl. We're sitting at Roses, one of Chicago's finest blues bars, talking to one of the city's greatest, youngest blues lights, I guess we could say, Joey J. Saye. Hello.
You. Thank you, Bill. Thanks for joining me here at Roses, and
Nice to talk to you. Why don't we start at the beginning? How did you fall in love with the blues?
So I came across blues because I was always very curious as a kid, and back then there were CD wallets, these big black kind of little cases that you would flip through them and go through all the CDs and all the collections. So I was in a really big habit of going through my parents' collections and then my friends, their parents' collections. And so one day we were going through my friend's dad's collection. We found a little Chicago blues section, and the first song I heard was Muddy Waters, I Just Want to Make Love to You.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty cool, kind of spooky. And then it was Memphis Minnie, Bumblebee Blues. And I could hear the similarities between them, and just the way that she sang it, her moaning and groaning versus just direct singing, it just sounded so different and very raw, and I don't know, something about it pulled me in. It was very different than all the rock and roll that I had heard. I mean, way different than anything I had heard at that point in my life. So it was just kind of a natural thing that kind of happened. Got very lucky.
And when did you pick up the guitar?
So, guitar has always been in my life. I didn't get my own guitar, my own electric guitar, until I was 13. I stumbled across guitars beforehand. My friends had guitars, and so when I was at their place, I'd play guitar, or sometimes they would even let me borrow their guitars.
Mm.
So there was a good stretch in my life where a lot of parents were, showing up kind of upset, looking for their kid's guitar multiple times. But yeah, so that's kind of, I probably started playing when I was around 8, but I didn't get my own guitar until I was 13. So
What kind of music did you start out playing?
I can actually still remember the first thing that I ever played when I got that first electric guitar. But it was a lot of rock and roll, a lot of the popular songs from my youth and growing up.
Sure.
Yeah. And I still have a handful of friends that remember the 8th grade talent show. I did an original, which they still remember the lyrics to, and also did Iron Man. So I was just really into guitar-centric music. So lots of rock and roll and a little bit of blues, what I understood to be the blues at that time. So.
What do you think you bring to the table as far as the Chicago blues scene goes? Obviously, your style is very traditional.
Yeah.
So it's very different than most Chicago blues artists of the newer generation. How'd you come upon that?
Well, once again, just hearing Memphis Minnie, right? And, the question being, what do I bring to the table?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just my little window of blues, the blues that I've heard that has really inspired me, that has really motivated me. In some ways, I feel like the blues is such a powerful music that there's nothing that one person can really do to push it this way, push it that way. And the variety in the blues is so big. It's like looking at the sky. Everybody only sees a little bit of it.
Right.
So that's kind of what I bring to the table, are the things that I've spent my life listening to and loving, and hopefully will push that forward.
And some really unusual, at least for current bluesmen, some unusual influences. I hear Big Bill Broonzy in your playing. I hear J.B. Lenore, guys that you don't normally hear in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, that goes to my own just preference and taste in what I like to listen to. And I seem to like guys that have a really big groove or can make some spooky sounding music. And I think J.B. Lenore is a great example of that. A lot of people think it's very basic and maybe too fundamental. But to me, that's where the real meats and potatoes of the blues are, where it's something extremely simple, but yet extremely powerful, and
And JB sounded pretty unique too.
It was very unique. It was very unique, and I think not a lot of people recognize that, because when you just hear it at its surface, it sounds, like that basic shuffle. But when you really spend that time listening to it, you really hear what he was getting into, where he was pulling from. And, to me, just him doing something so simple that everybody else does, but being able to stand out as he did it, I think that's kind of the goal.
And you grew up in Aurora, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago with its own blues history. Did that impact what you were doing?
Absolutely. So growing up in Aurora, obviously it's not like I got to see a lot of actual blues musicians. But as I got older, learning about the people who actually came to my town, the same people that I fell in love with in my teenage years, it kind of just made it a little bit more real for me, right? And to be born there, to fall in love with this specific music, it made it kind of seem like things were meant to be. So
you could go down to that hotel where they recorded in the ballroom up there.
And I used to.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I used to go downtown Aurora, and the Leland Tower, which is where they recorded, and the room at the top is the Sky Club. They still have a star on top of it that lights up, and it's like 10 stories tall or something. So, I'd play down at Roundhouse or at the Ballydoyle or Aurora's Tap. And, after or before those sets, I'd go to the Leland Tower, and I'd literally wish myself a little blue wish upon that star. So,
wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any significance in your name?
Yes. So, my name's, Joseph Saye. Some people call me Joe, some people call me Joey, some people call me JJ. I come from a Liberian family, so my last name does have some type of significance. Every Liberian has an African name. My sisters, I got 3, they all have African names. Now, I don't have an African name because that's what my last name carries. We're all named after, our, what order we were born in. So to be a Saye it means that you're the oldest, the oldest born son, or if you're a Bebe, that means you're the oldest born girl in your family. So even my dad, his birth name is Nya Benter Saye, but his older brother passed away. So ever since after that, people only called him Saye, so now I'm that Saye.
Cool. When did you start playing the local clubs in Chicago?
So in Chicago proper,
Right.
I started playing, probably when I was about 20 or 21, maybe a little bit before. And I think the first place I was at very consistently was probably like the Smoke Daddy off of Division and Wood. I did Land Shark Beer Garden. We did Crab House, Henry Swing Club, a lot of those kinds of places. And I was probably about 21. Yeah, so I'm 31 now. So
I'm glad we got that straightened up because it was a program for the Chicago Blues Festival last summer where it said you were 10 years older than that. And I remember riding home on the L, reading that and thinking, that just isn't possible.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm 31, and to a lot of people, I am new on the scene, through their perspective and everything. But I've really been trying to be out here playing this music for nearly half my life now. And Chicago is such a big place where you could live here for decades and still never see somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, right.
In my case, yes.
Yeah.
So you were actually playing in Aurora then before you were old enough to be playing in Aurora, in effect, huh?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was playing in Aurora and all around, different parts of Chicagoland when I was like 16. And, believe it or not, I've actually been this size probably since I was like 14 or something, There was a place in downtown Naperville called Rizzo's, and it had a big window. And the deal was, I would go down there and play. And if ever a cop walked in, I'd just kind of literally jump out this window and wait until he left.
It's still going on. I remember reading Freddie King having to do something similar to that in the early 50s. So exact same scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not fair for people under 21 that want to be musicians, is it?
That's true, and it gave me something to look forward to. Most people, when they turn 21, they just want to, probably have a bunch of drinks with their friends. But I was just so excited to be able to finally be in a bar without getting, hassled for it. So.
Did you see other musicians on the Chicago blues scene that you liked and kind of thought of as mentors or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. There were so many people. In fact, I'd probably say most people I came across, I always saw something in them that I could pull from, that I could learn, because I was learning and I still am learning. But some of the people that I was closer to in that regard, like a guy like Mondo Cortez, always just being fascinated by his guitar moves and all that. And Dave Herrero, Kenny Smith, Felix Reyes. In terms of people that I was seeing on the regular, I'd say that was, those were those guys. Yeah, for sure.
I was curious too, along with the Bruinsies and the Lenores, were there other guys from the post-war blues era in particular that you kind of set yourself to?
Post-war?
Yeah.
I love Sunnyland Slim. I love Blind John Davis. It's not exactly post-war. It's probably a little bit before, a little bit after. But Dr. Clayton, I love him too. Robert Lockwood Jr. There are so many people, some who do, who should be mentioned, like Willie James Lyons. Not a lot of people know about him.
Right.
Willie Lacey, but that's more so pre-war, I'd say, given all the Sonny Boy One records he's on. Hubert Sumlin, I love him. Yeah, just a whole slew of people. And that's one thing I love about the blues, is that you look at one guy, you follow that, that trail, and it leads to 10 other people. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. It's one of those things, where, you could go on for days probably, I'm sure.
Is it tough doing a very traditional blues act in Chicago when people are looking more for the blues rock thing, especially a lot of club owners, let's say? They want that loud 15-chorus guitar thing in your face all the time.
Yeah, it's never tough in terms of, I never necessarily get discouraged or anything like that. I love this music. I love traditional blues. A lot of the traditional blues that I don't even play, you know what I mean? But, it's just a certain way when you don't hear it, and when people aren't playing it, some people aren't searching for it. And that's okay, because there's so many different styles of this music, and even for the time period where this traditional music comes from, there was a lot of different blues music being played even during those times. It's always been wide. So in some ways it's a struggle, but in other ways, it's in some ways it's helped me, right? So, yeah.
Well, when I first saw you, and I'm embarrassed to admit, it was only last June at Chicago Blues Festival, I was knocked out cold by your guitar playing, but it was also the vocals that did it for me, and that's kind of a lost art in the Chicago blues scene, as well as everywhere else for that matter. Everybody focuses on the guitar, how many solos, how much speed, etc. The vocal thing is very important to you, obviously.
Yeah, I started off more as a singer because I had a voice before I had a guitar, and my grandpa, he was a pastor, and when we'd go on, those missionary trips and everything, I was always that little kid bringing out the Coke, bringing out the Sprite, and singing to people, or, singing with my sisters and all that stuff, So in some ways, guitar has just been, something to kind of help me sing this and that. It's important to me, and you always got to kind of feel that groove from that lyrical perspective. I think it helps drive the song forward.
It's interesting. The church then did play a role in your singing, just as it did back in the 40s and 50s, 60s, but doesn't much anymore for most younger blues acts.
Absolutely, and I grew up in an African church, you know what I mean, singing all sorts of hymns, this and that, and even just thinking about it right now, it moves me, the way that they used to sing that kind of stuff, I didn't value it and make the connection between, hey, the church stuff, this blues stuff, but there was absolutely a certain kind of soul and energy going on.
You're working on your first album right now. What kind of statement do you want to make with it?
You know, what kind of statement do I want to make with it? I just first hope that people, you know, enjoy it, that they hear me through it, all the different styles that I like. Some people think I just play electric, some people think I just play acoustic, and, you know, maybe only a specific way. So I hope that, you know, gets heard, you know, with the depth that it, you know, it's gonna bring. And also I just hope that it inspires and uplifts whoever it hits, you know, so a lot of that.
Is it frustrating to see the great traditional blues artists of years past kind of being overlooked anymore?
Yeah, I'd say it can be frustrating, but, you know, I also have to, like, realize when I was born in the world that I live in, you know, I was born in @93. People of my own generation, if it was truly frustrating, I don't think I would have made it, you know, this long, right? But at the same time, I hope one day we look back and recognize something that sounds so simple. We realize how complex, how, you know, just, I hope that we realize just how much music is still there. And in my opinion, you know, a lot of blues is improv, right?
Sure.
So to me, it never is old if it's always coming from the heart. So
I imagine by now you've learned to work a club, work a room pretty well too, get the feedback off of the crowd and everything, which doesn't come overnight.
yeah, exactly, and it's important too, you know, the way us as musicians feel on a stage in front of people, but also just the way that the people out there, how they feel, you know. And you know, a blues man once told me that sometimes when you're playing for people, you don't need to remind them that you're there. You need to remind them that they are there.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
Now you toured over in Europe not too long ago, right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was a very good experience. Very blessed for all of the opportunities that I've had. I've had opportunities to play in Spain, in Bilbao, all throughout France and Belgium, and I also did Brazil as well too. And so, number one, just the fact that my guitar is taking me on a trip, I'm very, very blessed for that. All the people that I meet overseas, the way that they love music. I mean, you know, playing for some of those international crowds, it's amazing because you could hear a pin drop, you know, and
Yeah.
they're really watching you. So blessed for all of it.
I was recently watching a lot of those old American folk blues festivals from the 60s and listening to them, and indeed it's a very different, those guys were used to playing in bars with people partying and dancing, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden there's that quiet,
Yeah.
and then some come in clapping on the wrong beat, and
Right.
it's definitely got to be a strange feeling for those guys. And what is this about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying that everywhere in Europe or around the world it's dead silent. Sometimes it's a lot of fun and they do clap and we get really into it. I had a very pleasant experience at La Madison de Blues and at the Banana Peel. Those people, they love the music, they love the party, and they love to show it too. So God bless them.
But they definitely have a different reaction.
Oh yeah, night and day for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and so you know, sometimes you do get, you know, it depends on where you go, right, and what people are into. But yes, in general, out there, you know, in Europe, they really do pick up on the more traditional stuff quicker.
Here in Chicago, I know Roses is one of your favorite places to play.
Absolutely. Ever since I was really trying to get into the Chicago blues scene, I played with a group of guys before, and I knew that Roses was a place that I needed to be with the music that I love. Even though Roses here, you know, we host a lot more than just blues. The music can be across the board, which is a great thing. But I knew for myself, I needed to play blues here. I'm very lucky that I get to every single Friday Eve. No matter what, you know, I'm here playing for the folks. And so, yeah, you know, I used to play with a group and I told them, hey, we need to be at Roses. and they didn't see the value behind it. So, I made this move anyway, and we don't play together anymore, but I get to be here. So
Glad of that. Where do you see yourself going musically in the future over the long haul?
Musically, right? So, I mean, honestly, I just want to keep things bluesy. I want to keep down this path that I'm on. I want to keep playing the music that I love and that inspires me and motivates me. And that's a lot of other kinds of music too. There's blues, there's jazz and swing and all that kind of stuff as well too. But I'm just gonna try to keep my mind as open as the sky, and just anything that comes out. So.
You've got a lot of great originals in your
Thank you.
in your portfolio too. How important is that to have your own material as opposed to just doing covers?
Well, I can't say as a hard rule or anything, but I know for me, I'm always gonna play the covers, the music that inspired me, and then you also have to express yourself. And sometimes I make originals that sound much more modern. Sometimes they sound much more bluesy, and I just want to be able to do both as an artist, just express myself, so.
I think we should show the people this beautiful guitar you got.
Oh, yeah.
And tell us a little bit about A, how you got it, and B, how old it is, because it's a real artifact here.
Yeah, this is my Gibson that I play here at Roses every Thursday. It's ES300. It's from 1946. I didn't buy it because of the age or anything like that, and I've been known to move a guitar or two. So, I made some trades, and I picked this guy up, and I don't know, it's just been a really, I kind of see this thing as a little music box and time machine. A music box because so many different sounds can come out of it. A time machine because you pick it up and then, 3 years go by. So.
And you mentioned a few great bluesmen of the past that played this model?
Exactly. So that was something that drew me towards it. Robert Nighthawk, he played one of these, and he's a guy who came to Aurora a couple of times.
Right, sure.
And Clarence Gatemouth Brown played one of these earlier in his career.
It's funny because I've seen that photo now. They had that one where he's got his arm up in the air like that. Now I recognize it.
Yeah, like Peacock Records, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So I think it was a Peacock. Maybe he was playing a telly on that, but.
On the later ones he was, but on
Yeah.
the earlier ones now. They hadn't even invented them when he got there.
Right, exactly.
So,
That makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is my baby, one of them.
Has it got a name?
No, and I usually do name most.
If you could, let us know where you're going to be playing on a regular basis in the near future so folks can come see you.
Yeah, so I'm here at Roses Lounge every single Friday Eve or Thursday night, 8:30 to 9:30. I open up for a little Ed and his band, so you can come enjoy what I do as well as him. He's an amazing showman and musician in person.
Sure.
And then I also play at a place called Briny Swine. I think that's more so like in Lakeview or Lincoln Park, that kind of area.
Mm-hmm.
And we play blues there all night long from 9 p.m. to 1 in the morning, or I think, just all those late nights. And I have plenty of dates. Typically, it's every other Friday. So come check me out. And if not there, maybe a place like Judson and Moore. I play there from time to time. I'm here in Chicagoland. Yeah.
And you have some of Chicago's best musicians playing with you.
Absolutely. I play with Mr. Bob Stroger, and I play with another gentleman as well too, Dean Haas. Now, most people know about Bob's history. He played with Otis Rush. He's played with everybody and anybody, and he's just an incredible musical mentor to learn from. Maybe nothing he's saying directly, but just how he carries himself. It's just been a blessing to be around him. And Dean Haas as well too has played with many Chicago people, and Dean has absolutely helped me pick up on really good music. He's given me lots and lots of records, so thank you to both of those guys.
First time I ever went and saw a live blues band in 1975 was Otis Rush, and there on bass was Bob Stroger.
Yeah? Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, do you know where that was?
A place called Zim's. It was off of Clark on Diversey in a basement club. I'll never forget. I was so scared to be in there. I was with my mom and her boyfriend.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Otis never had much to say, when you talked to him. He was very quiet.
You talked to him?
Oh, yeah. Well, I interviewed him several times after that, but at the time I was just like,
Oh, wow.
So,
That's crazy.
And they were fooling with the lights. They get him on the spotlight on the stage.
Yeah.
And they said, "Is this okay, Otis?" And he goes, "Man, I don't want to be seen. I just want to be heard." And I thought,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's heavy."
That's cool. What year was that?
75.
75. Yeah.
I was 19.
Yeah.
Boy,
I would have
am I
loved to
old.
have been there. No. I would have loved to have been there. Yeah.
He would make the hair stand up on the back of your head. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
And did he have the wavy hair at the time too?
Yeah, well, the wavy wig
Was he-
in reality.
Was he taller or shorter?
He was pretty tall.
Yeah.
Not as tall as Lonnie Brooks or Eddie Clearwater, but
Okay, yeah, I can imagine.
he was a lot taller than I am, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you would, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and for the record, I predict big things for you. And the last time I had that serious thought about anyone I saw play live was Robert Cray, so that'll tell you.
Yeah.
That was like in 1980 or 81, 82, somewhere through there. So.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the people that come out and support the music and help push things along for me. So I'm grateful for all of you guys. So.
Glad to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we go, would you play us out with something else on that 1946 Gibson guitar?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see what I got. A little preview of an original song.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Joey J. Saye, it's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you, Bill. My pleasure.